Namaskaram, welcome to my channel, VPK Nutrition, Modern Vedic Integrative Wellness. Today, I wanted to start my video with a quote that I read last week and it stayed with me. Eyes are useless when the mind is blind. You may be wondering, what has this got to do with health or inflammation or even my channel? After a lot of reflection, I realized it has everything to do with our health. Think about it. We don't just see the world through our eyes. We all see the world through our mind, the conditioning in the mind, the coloring and filters in our mind. So what appears as a challenging or stressful thing to one person may bring peace or may not feel like a big deal to another person. Ayurveda and yoga remind us that the mind is a subtle part of our body, and this can have a very significant effect on our physical body. When the mind keeps repeating patterns, especially negative patterns like fear, anger, sadness, resentment, or conflict, over a period of time, these start to affect our physical body, our nervous system, immune system, hormones, all of them start responding. And this, after a long time, being subjected to the same kind of emotions, will lead to this low-grade inflammation or the silent fire within that I talked about in our last episode. In today's episode, I wanted to go beyond the food and lifestyle and talk about this subtle part of our being. I also want to share, and again, stay till the end because I'm going to be sharing a simple exercise for you to be able to recognize your own patterns, how to overcome some of these challenges by recognizing those patterns and find your way to inner peace. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. First of all, my heartfelt thanks to all of my subscribers and those who have been sharing their comments and feedback. If you haven't already done so, please do consider subscribing. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share with your friends and family that can be benefited. Let's begin with today's topic. In the last episode, I talked about inflammation, the low-grade inflammation or the silent fire within that causes a lot of the chronic illnesses that we face today. But inflammation doesn't always start with the body, but it starts at a much subtle layer, which is the mind. Mind is a very powerful thing, part of our subtle body, and although we know all the right choices for our body and our health, we tend to do the same thing over and over again, having these patterns that are not always beneficial to us. So Ayurveda refers to this as prajnaparada, or not listening to your inner intelligence. A lot of times, again, we are dictated to act a certain way or respond to stress a certain way based on our body composition, body type, or doshas, which is natural. However, I got to thinking a little deeper about this and asking myself, why is this that we constantly repeat the same patterns although we know the right things to do? We live unconsciously most of the time. Maybe this is something that comes from evolution itself in human beings. Because think about it, our basic instinct is always a survival instinct. Maybe, thousands of years ago, a tiger was chasing us and we had to save ourselves. So naturally, the body automates danger and says, oh, I got to protect myself. So this is why we repeat the same patterns as a protective mechanism. The mind needed to automate things so that it is not using so much of energy thinking about doing the same thing every day, all the time. For example, if you're driving to work, you always take the same route, then you don't have to look at a GPS to tell you how to go every single day, unless you're looking for traffic. So again, these things were beneficial for us to make our day easy and also conserve energy. The same mechanism that is supposed to protect us can become a trap. When the mind repeats the same behaviors, thoughts, and relationship patterns that can be harmful, the mind has not had time to stop and reflect and pause because the nervous system has already taken over. This results in anxiety, and then we start repeating the same pattern over and over again. This is something I have noticed in my own life, and I have noticed old wounds keep coming back again and again, And then we continue the same pattern of fear and anger, resentment, and all of these conflicts because we have not processed some of these things from the past. We have not noticed this, and we've been reacting very unconsciously to things in our life rather than actually processing them and figuring out that this is something that doesn't matter anymore. So it is a matter of trying to recognize these patterns and letting go of them soon enough so that we don't repeat them in the future, causing pain and anxiety and reaching that inner peace within. So in today's episode, let's look at this from 3 different perspectives: modern perspective, Ayurveda, and also yoga, and how these patterns can have an impact on our body and mind and lead to inflammation. From a modern scientific perspective, there is research showing that the emotional stress is not just a feeling, but can actually create measurable changes in the physical body, like inflammation, leading to chronic illnesses. For this, I wanted to share a couple of studies that show the link between chronic stress and inflammation. The first study is a meta-analysis review study, which reviewed a bunch of previous studies, which tried to show the connection between acute psychological stress and inflammation. The results showed that after people experienced psychological stress, there was measurable increases in inflammatory markers such as interleukin-6, interleukin-1 beta, interleukin-10, and TNF-alpha, and these are chemicals involved in immune and inflammatory responses. So this review supports the idea that stress can activate the immune system and increase inflammation in the body. Study number 2 is an actual human study done by Goin and colleagues. This study included 53 people who are caregivers of patients with dementia and 77 non-caregiving subjects. The researchers interviewed them to see the daily stressors over a 24-hour period. They also took blood samples to study the 2 inflammatory markers, CRP and interleukin-6. Results showed that caregivers were more likely to experience multiple daily stressors, and people who had more daily stressors also had higher levels of interleukin-6 and CRP. So it's clear from these studies that you don't need like a major trauma or like they say PTSD to cause a lot of inflammation, but even daily stressors over a period of time accumulating in the body can lead to inflammation, which we talk about today. So let's look at some daily stressors that we may go through every single day. Here are some examples. Relationship stress, repeated arguments, misunderstandings, or emotional tension. Work pressure, deadlines, workload, difficult coworkers, or job insecurity. Commuting stress, traffic delays, or long daily travel. Financial worries, bills, debt, rising expenses, or family responsibilities. Caregiving stress, caring for children, aging parents, or someone ill. And mental stress, overthinking, replaying the past, worrying, or self-criticism. So from a modern perspective, we can say that whenever these emotional patterns keep repeating over and over again, we don't just, give it up. The body starts to take it on, and the nervous system and the immune system starts to respond before we even have time to reflect and think. And this leads to the low-grade inflammation, the silent fire within, which we need to help get rid of so we can be more healthy. Now let's examine this from an Ayurvedic perspective. Ayurveda says that even if we know better, we keep repeating a lot of these patterns. This is called prajnaparada, the main cause of disease. This is, what the healthy choices are, what to do, but we do not listen to our inner intelligence. Let us look at some common examples. Number 1, eating a meal before the previous meal is digested, leading to ama. Number 2, snacking on healthy foods, or rather unhealthy foods, although they are unhealthy and harmful to your body. Repeating draining relationship patterns, repeating anger, resentment, overgiving, and not setting boundaries to protect our emotional and mental well-being, ignoring body signals, especially when you're tired, until the symptoms appear to take rest. We are all guilty of this at some point or the other. But if this becomes a habit in your life, then naturally you're going down that path for inflammation. Now, this creates a lot of ama, mental, emotional toxins that start to have an impact on our physical body, leading to inflammation. So you can see how our mind is so powerful, and it is important for us to listen to our inner voice, inner intelligence, and try to be more conscious of how we live. From the yogic perspective, the goal of yoga is to control the fluctuations of the mind so you have inner calm and peace. The Patanjali Sutra says, Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. The goal of yoga is to control the fluctuations of the mind, or at least be aware of them. There is another sutra that says that just because you have all of these modifications and when you recognize these thought patterns, doesn't mean you're doomed. You can always make changes. It says, Heyam Dukkham Anagatam. We cannot change the past, but the future suffering can be avoided. So here it is very important to use some of the yogic techniques to understand our own mind. And again, pranayama works at a very deep level. It works at the subtle body, removing a lot of the blockages and impurities that we hold on in our nervous system. So it calms down the nervous system. And when you sit in mindful meditation, when you actually close your eyes and shut off all of the senses, a lot of these thoughts and vasanas, or the inherent tendencies that you have, your reaction patterns start to emerge in the mind. So when you start watching this and do mindfulness meditation, you can be more aware of your own patterns, which are causing the conflicts in your life and also creating a lot of these patterns and your reactions. So in summary, modern medicine says that stress is related to inflammation. Ayurveda says why we repeat our patterns, although we know what is better for us. And yoga tells us that we are not doomed. We can always help ourselves and prevent suffering in the future. In my own life, in my own journey, I have used a lot of these concepts to help me grow and evolve. I wanted to give you a simple analogy, which is something I find interesting. A lot of people play video games, in your devices, especially nowadays. And we all know that in order to be able to get to the finish line in the video game or beat the game, you have to go through several levels. You have to cross many levels. Initially, you have easy levels, and then later on, it gets more and more challenging. So as we get to the challenging levels, it may take a few tries before you get to the next level. So what do? We try to gauge what is happening, what mistakes you're making, and seeing the patterns that are emerging in order to beat it faster and faster and faster. So it's the same way in life, right? When we tend to repeat the same patterns, make the same mistakes over and over again, doesn't mean that we just give up, but we can always get better as we watch them and learn from them. I want to leave you with a simple exercise for you to practice this week. Every day, write a short journal entry at the end of the day, asking yourself a few questions. This will help you understand your own patterns. Did I face anything challenging today? How did I respond? Was it a reaction or was it a conscious action? If it is a reaction, is this a repeating pattern? What can I do differently next time? Over time, this practice will help you understand your own patterns, how you're reacting, if you're living consciously or unconsciously, and repeating a lot of those patterns that are harmful to your behavior and your life. Now, again, I said writing is a good idea because you can see it in black and white, and when you put it on paper, you have a better idea of things. However, it doesn't mean you have to always write. You can always sit and contemplate on this, even when you're driving or anytime, anywhere. But this is just a great exercise to hold on to it for life, because we are always going to be getting challenging situations. Once you conquer one, a new one is going to come up. So the more and more you work on yourself, the better you're going to get at stopping yourself sooner in the future. Heyam dukkam anagatam. So you're going to prevent that future suffering by working on things today and being prepared. Because when you get to a challenging situation and your nervous system takes over, then it's just a slippery slope. This is why we need to plan ahead of time to keep our mental peace. When you start slowing down, then you can slowly pick yourself up and keep going. The important thing is observe yourself without the judgment. And again, remember, everything good takes time. So even if you slip and fall, it's okay. Just brush it off, be compassionate towards yourself, and then keep going. Again, consistency is the key. As always, listen to your body, observe your mind, and heal yourself. And I'll see you again another time with another episode. Have a wonderful week ahead.